In today's conversation, I'm talking with Lacey Dupre about how she grew her online business, because I'm always curious about that, and also about how you can work through money mindset blocks. She is sharing a wonderfully unique way of looking at money and the phases of life and business, and some really great actual tips to get started doing the work. Lacey is amazing. She specializes in needle-free acupuncture, addressing chronic pain, stress, and anxiety, as well as helping you move through difficult emotions. She offers virtual healing sessions, and I ask her all about that as well as an online group coaching program, and we talk about that as well. So let's dive in. Hey there, welcome to the Blissful Biz podcast. I'm your host, Susanne Reiche, here to help yoga and wellness entrepreneurs build a thriving online business. If you're ready to make a bigger impact and earn money online, you are in the right place. Each week you learn about websites, digital products, social media strategies, and what's working now to build your online business. And now let's get started. Hi, Lacey. Welcome to the Blissful Biz podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here, and it's wonderful to be here speaking to you.
I just feel your energy already from the video. So I'm really excited about our conversation. Can we start that by you introducing yourself and telling our listeners what you do, where you are right now?
Sure. Wonderful. My name is Dr. Lacey Dupre. Lacey, and I'm a doctor of traditional East Asian medicine or Chinese medicine. And right now I'm in the US. I have been in San Diego for about a decade, and I just recently moved south of Austin. So that's Texas. So this is the very end of June 2022. So we're in a very difficult time in my country here, especially in the state that I'm in. And very, very trying times for humans and especially for women. Yeah. Okay. So that's where I'm at right now amidst a lot
Although I heard really great things about Austin. So I have never been there. It's on my list.
Yeah. It's really a lot of fun and beautiful and a lot of nature. It's the hill country, and it's quite a beautiful place. And a lot of very friendly people and progressive movements. But we're in the middle of a lot of turmoil. Yeah.
So you do self acupuncture and you see clients, but you also have an online business, right?
Yes.
It's like a side thing. How did that evolve actually? How did that happen?
Yeah. So, as we know, when we work with our clients, I call mine patients one-on-one, we're never scaling, right? So it's like, sure, I see my patients and I love what I do. But we need to get out there more. We need our word and our teachings and, to be seen as business women out there in the world beyond these one-on-one. And I mean scale, sure, monetarily, financially, but also in terms of this resonance, outwardly into the world. So I started my online business because there was a need for it. Initially, it's because I had moved from the West Coast to Texas, from California. And once I had moved here, or in the process of moving here, I knew I wanted to travel. I didn't want to just stay here. It's just that I'm near family, and I could afford a home here and be in nature here, easily accessible nature, and not have to drive, right? And then, of course, wanted to travel. So I wanted an online business, and it started with my patients on the West Coast that I left behind. And we would do what is called, I termed this needle-free acupuncture. So the acupuncture that I did in my clinic in San Diego was, I was using needles, and I was also using needle-free, which is using a tool called the Teishin, and I'll show you here. Okay. So this is the Teishin. It's like a small...
This looks like a little tool stick or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the very end of it here is not pointy at all, right? It looks to describe on audio, it looks like a small, between a pencil and a Q-tip, right? Something like that. And it's all silver. I make bronze ones,
Yes.
and then
So you patients, they buy that basically.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
um, so what I do is we do an initial intake. So, but to back up a little bit, it doesn't insert into the skin. This is very gentle, very delicate, and one side is set with a gemstone of intention. I only use 5 gemstones that I've sourced: um, garnet, sapphire, tanzanite, amethyst, and what's the 5th one? Anyway, it'll come to me. But to when I do your intake, I also choose your gemstone. And stone medicine is also very ancient Chinese medicine, right? So this is the oldest acupuncture needle. This is called a teishin, and it's been around for many thousands of years. And it's how acupuncture started, right? So it is the most efficacious and potent form of acupuncture. And it requires the practitioner to, do qigong. So I teach qigong virtually, and I teach how to use the teishin, the oldest acupuncture tool, on yourself. So we do the intake. I handcraft these based on the ancient measurements of the old teishins, set it with a gemstone, and ship it out to you. So then you get your own heirloom, beautiful tool. You'll either get it in silver or bronze, whatever is your constitution, and through your intake, and your gemstone in there. And we go together. We work together virtually, and it's lovely on Zoom because we use the face, and there's all the acupuncture points are on the face that we need, right? So the face is a microcosm of the entire body. So I can treat the entire body just from the face, just like you would see somebody treating just the ear with the acupuncture seeds or needles, and that treats the whole body. The same with the face. It's a microcosm. So the benefit of that is, facial rejuvenation, which is awesome. The side effect of working with the channels and points on your face, right? Very easy. And a lot of what I teach is our money story and money blocks, because that is often at the root of some of our energetic blocks. And be it a physical illness that you're dealing with, or maybe an artistic, a creative block that you're dealing with, right? A lot of it does stem down to the stories inside of our head. And then those are often rooted in money, right? We know these things. These resonate with all of us in a soulful way, as a truth. So yeah, that's the gist of it. It's called the Sacred Self Acupuncture Sessions, and I see people and treat them all over the world. Yeah,
Amazing. I love
yeah.
that. So right now, is the majority of your patients, do you see them online or also like in person?
I would say about half,
Okay.
because I do have a thriving practice in person now that COVID is, somewhat sleeping, hopefully, right now. Um, and yes, so I see a lot of people in person. And Then I love my virtual patients, and I have a group of patients as well. We meet as a group. So it's very easily done, in one morning a week, to see those patients virtually. So that's why it's about half and half, because I have my one-on-ones and I have some group, and yeah,
I
it's
love that because, like you don't have to decide. It's not one or the other. You can do both. And they're like the energy of one-on-ones can be really uplifting and empowering. But at the same time, when it's too much and you have to see like patients back to back, I think it could get very draining as well. I mean, of course, it's also draining when you see patients online. But
Mhm.
yeah. So, okay, maybe the advantage is also then, well, when they come to you, you don't have, of course, to travel somewhere. Is there
Yeah.
some added convenience for you teaching online or seeing patients
Well,
online? Not really.
I do think the group, what you're speaking to is the group program. So it's like, right, I can see like 50 women or 20 women, depending on the size of the group, in, a 30-minute session or an hour-long session. So for sure, there's that advantage there of that, and that's how we all scale, right?
Mm.
And that's part of unwinding this money story is teaching women that like they have a voice and they have a lot to share as well. And so sometimes we do share in group if that's, called for. And just, being in that way and being in a container, a sacred container with other women, really does something to the nervous system and the psyche and the spirit. It's group healing is very powerful. So there's healing that happens one-on-one for sure. I have, I don't get drained with my one-on-one sessions because that's just part of being a practitioner is understanding the energies. But of course, like, right, if I would see like 8 patients in person in one day, right, I would feel tired and fatigued. Anybody would, of course. But yeah, that is definitely the benefit of these group sessions is they happened they happen once a week.
Yeah.
And group healing is something so different and so potent than a one-on-one, and they both have their needs. And I have some patients that come to my groups and some patients and then that same come in person, right? Because they get it. They get that there's different frequencies there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same with when you're learning something that you can benefit so much from being in the group, from the questions somebody else is asking, just feeling the community, compared to one-on-one teaching, coaching, which is amazing, of course, as well. So both has a place for sure. But
Yeah.
I think it's the same. Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of one of my students who's a life coach, and she's in her 60s, and she's been like one of the first life coaches in Canada. And she came to a place in her life where she wanted to work less, but
Yeah.
not earn less.
Right.
So, right. So there wasn't really the availability scale. There wasn't the option to scale really her practice. And so she started an online business and launched her first online course. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And working on that now as well, while still seeing clients as well. And she's actually now my mindset coach in my program.
Oh, that's
I hired
wonderful.
her
Wow.
as our mindset coaching. Yeah, she's amazing because she knows, like, because in my program, I teach how to build an online business. And so she went through that. She knows exactly what everybody else is struggling with. And she has that amazing background as a coach, as a therapist as well, so yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. I love hearing about that because that's the beauty of these online environments is that we can make these connections and then further that feminine economy by working together, because that's exactly what we're trying to do here. I think all of us is build a feminine economy, an economy that's built on resilience and sustainability rather than hierarchy.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love that. Yes. And I think it's so common that women hide their ambitions in
right.
a way. It's just like, okay, the husband is the main breadwinner, and women, they have their little side hustle maybe, but they don't take it serious. Um, and I want, when they sign up to work with me, I'm like, I want you to build like a multiple 6-figure business, not right now, not like overnight, but over a few years. I want you to be able to tell your husband that he can quit his job and work for you. There's so many opportunities now that maybe weren't really there just like 5 years ago.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
of
I
course, women have the problem that they have to take care of the children and the house and all that. So it's difficult, and we have glass ceilings when you work in corporate to have this,
absolutely.
to really have the same career as a man and also have a family. In Germany, you don't see that very often. It's very, very rare. Like most of my friends, when they get children, they start working half time, and then you don't make a career anymore. So you don't. And it just makes me sad. I mean, if it makes them happy, that's of course, but, um, if it works for them, that's great. So I'm not judging that. I'm not judging anyone for their decisions, but that the structure, that's how our society is still set up in this patriarchal way, that makes me sad. So I want
Absolutely.
like different circumstances, and then everybody can make their own decisions what they want to do. And if you don't want to work in an office, totally fine.
Right. And it's we're we're now seeing the results of women who try to fit into that role, and that comes later on in life in our 50s and 60s and 70s with fibromyalgia and health issues and all of that. When we suppress um, the balance, then we get disease, dis-ease, right, and imbalance. And
Mm.
yeah, nobody can, male or female, can do it all, right? And yeah, I've retired my husband. He, we have a 3-year old, and he is the one who stays home, and they're at a play date right now, and he takes her to all her play dates and dance and everything, and he's with her all the time, and it's the embodiment of the sacred masculine. And I think that is definitely what our world needs. We've been speaking collectively about the divine feminine and feminine rising since the 60s and the 1960s. And um, now we have to call upon the sacred masculine to meet that balance and that drive, because there's so much anger out there,
Mm.
and rage, and not only suppressed rage, but you know, just nowhere to put this anger, kind of anger, um, and on both sides, male and female. And, anger overlays grief, which overlays fear, right? And so these are all bubbling up to the surface as we deal with a planet that is rapidly in decline, so there's a lot of stress. And it's time to really put our focus on the sacred masculine and call to them, especially politically. We're seeing this war in Ukraine that is devastating, and again, climate change, and we have, I just like, I can envision like Greta Thunberg just screaming, with all her beautiful feminine rage. Um, and it's like, where's her counterpart, that to meet her. And that's what we're calling upon right now. Yeah, planetarily.
So how does it work when you work with your patients or your program? And you said I mean, you have like self acupuncture, Chinese medicine, and money blocks. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? How you help people address their money block? Because I think it's something that a lot of our listeners are struggling with as well. Like a lot of my listeners are yoga teachers,
Mhm.
and like money is such a big, big block for many, many of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So I first describe, how the severing from money came about, culturally and socially. So, money was and is the divine feminine. It is, it was in the form of cowrie shells and um, cattle and all these things that are very much, um, a cowrie shell is in the shape of a yoni. Cattle is very much earth. All these very feminine things. Money is and was, right. And it's not until it became metal, and metal elementally is masculine, and it's this we started taking the value from a feminine economy of, okay, this is this reciprocal, resilient, sustainable, collective community energy of money with, like I said, like cattle or cowrie shells or something like that, and put it into the form of metal. And even then, we stamped it with goddesses. The oldest coins had Inanna on them, or the ancient Chinese, and that was the Sumerian ones. And then the oldest Chinese coins were circular, which is yang, and masculine, but then it had a square carved out, and that was the feminine. That's yin. And so they were stamped with the feminine, knowing, okay, we gotta, this is this collective community endeavor that we're all participating in, and with money is very feminine, and supporting us all. And it's not until that was severed and we started seeing, putting the value of money um, as pure yang, pure masculine. And masculine is, that's when we started seeing a hierarchy. So when the value of the money became more than what it was speaking to, and when patriarchy started, uh, when we wanted that value to supersede um, what it was actually, it's like hard to put into words, but I know you get what I'm saying. Um, it's like the value of money became greater than what it was even talking about, right? Which is upholding our community. Um, then we started seeing the shadow of money come out. So that is greed and scarcity, right? And that's the polarizing forces. So greed and scarcity, and this notion, this lie that started coming up that if I have abundance, someone else has scarcity, or if someone else has abundance, I have scarcity. Um, that's when it first started in terms of like patriarchal and hierarchy notions. So that's the root of it, right? So if we come back into, so what I teach is in feminine circles. I mean, in my group circles, is coming back into this feminine economy and understanding that when we um, work and believe and participate in a feminine economy, that is the way out of like not only planetary destruction, but our own money issues. And sure, it might look like participating in some gift circles, which I think are very empowering. And also, I have them write a letter to money and really look upon money as a goddess and visualize money, make an altar to money, as if you were at a temple worshiping a goddess, right? um,
That before, like having like a few notes of money lying around or things like that to feel abundant. Yeah.
right, and that is a part of it, right? Like placing, and then right, so you have your altar to money and you visualize her and you have a strong feeling of her presence. Then I ask my clients to go out and with money purchase something for money, right? And so it can be very small, it can be a small trinket, but go and start really embodying and understanding that that we do have the power, and money intrinsically is supporting us, right? And it's so much more powerful to take action, to visualize, to embody, to do, and have some breathing techniques around money than the common manifestation techniques that we've all tried. And like, you're like, until you're blue in the face, you're like, I am trying, and like when we place things in the mind and try to manifest with the mind, um, we just kind of get spun around. The mind is an abstraction of fear. It has to be embodied. It has to come from the heart. We have to truly believe these notions of money and divinity in order to properly manifest. Like if that's even a word, properly manifest. But I mean a notion. But yeah, the mind is not a vehicle of truth. Um, it's stories from our past that really trip us up, and that's where the blocks lie. Is just these habits, these neural pathways that are embedded in our brains, and those are habits and just habituations, yeah, that we can let go of. And so that's where self acupuncture comes in. Like
Okay.
the actual channels and points can help release those the stagnation inside of you, along with embodied techniques and somatic techniques that I teach to help unlock that money story
And do
and
you need
help.
to be aware of what kind of stories might be blocking you, or does it
Oftentimes,
work in any case?
yeah, it does. It works in any case. Absolutely. I mean, as we've seen, acupuncture is the oldest form of medicine, and it's like, quite an incredible system. So it does work anyway, but it is way more powerful when you do start listening to what's coming, what's bubbling up to the surface. It often comes in dreams. So my patients do start dreaming more once they see me. And paying attention and like understanding their dreams. And it does come with like synchronicities. Like when you're walking outside and you see that feather fall or that leaf fall and it has a message and you're like, oh, it means this. And then you're like thinking about it later and that the message that comes through, or you're taking a shower or whatever, and or you're driving, when you sort of are tuning out, messages start to come a lot more, those
Mm.
synchronicities. And it will usually come up like, damn, that story I'm telling myself about money, that's when my dad said X, Y, and Z when I was 15. Like those things just spontaneously will start to come up. And I teach about how we
Mm.
see them, we shake their hand and acknowledge them. But we don't have to relive things. This isn't talk therapy. It's not about that. It's like
I love that.
an
You see, like
awareness.
I read all those books, self-help books about money's mindset, and I was like, and I was thinking about it, and I can't really think about negative stories about money, but I'm sure they are in my background because I'm not a seven-figure millionaire. So, right?
Right.
I think one of the things I realized is that I always have enough money. Always like when I was working, I always had enough money, but it's like I can't take that leap to more, to like really feel abundant, to be able to save more and, all the things. Yeah. So, but I have no idea why that is because I feel like I'm welcoming money. Come to me.
Right, right, right. And we know through epigenetics as well that our traumas, our personal traumas, go back 8 generations, and that's just what science, which we know is very limited, has told us. Meaning that's what research that is using the tools of right now, which again these are, it's only 2022. We're not perfect. We haven't cured cancer and Alzheimer's. Like we're not there yet in terms of how we know how the brain works and how genetics works and all these things. So currently, we have researched back and have seen trauma is held in the body for 8 generations, and what's held in the body bubbles up into the mind and our subconscious, right? So, right, of course, you don't know where the block is, right?
Okay.
Because it might not even have been in this lifetime, and likely there are issues that are from this lifetime, because and I'm not even talking about reincarnation. I'm literally just talking about our ancestors, but we could go that way too. But until the age of 7, we are sponges, and we are completely being programmed by the world around us, our parents, our society. So some of these things are even beyond our memory, or we have suppressed those memories. So before the age of 7, it's like that's when we get imprinted. And those things can largely remain unconscious. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
But there are people, of course, who have like a more background that's not rich and who are really successful, who get to become really successful.
Yeah, right. Because they've
Just,
they've successfully not believed the stories either they were told,
yeah.
or have reprogrammed their own stories that they were or were not told. It's about this belief, right? Belief in lies and stories, right? We call it lies, we call it stories, but and it's not about good and evil. I mean, there's plenty of people that are hoarding money and who believe in terrible things, and who are not participating in the collective conscious, or I mean, not collective conscious, but this community of being human being over human doing, right? Um, and it's very, yeah, it's such a struggle to see that, right? To see like, well, how come? Like, why are all these people so rich? If I even had a little bit of their money, I would share more of it, or I would do this with it, or I would X, Y, and Z, right? We all know about this. Um, but there's so many different paths out there, and we've all chosen to be in the medicine body that we're in. We chose our parents before we came here, and we chose the medicine to help our soul evolve. And right, like their manifestation of how that looks is right, like might maybe being a terrible person and being a millionaire, we can name a few.
I mean,
Um,
that's just like money. Money doesn't make you happy or healthy or give you a good life, right? So it's
right.
just money. I mean, it can make you very unhappy if you don't have it, but
Absolutely. Right. Right.
yeah.
So it's a really complicated question and answer. And I love talking about it because when we really start digging in there, we can really start feeling how our personal journey is ultimately so empowering, and finding our soul's purpose will lead us to wealth. And then what does wealth mean to us? And oftentimes, yes, money. Um, but there's so many different ways of experiencing wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I know other entrepreneurs who really strive to always get to the next level income wise. Um, and sometimes it can feel, oh, I have to do that too. Actually, I don't know if I would want to get like even to like a multiple 7-figure business and have like a big team. I'm really happy with my life right now. I have everything I need.
Yeah, it's like more
So
money,
it's
more
also
problem.
like, sometimes I think it's also like I'm not as focused. I'm not putting like all my focus on reaching a financial goal. I'm putting my focus on really having the best life. And of course that, um, influences my action and what I do, because of course in the end, manifestation doesn't work without decisions, deciding to do things, putting things into action, buying
Mm,
the lottery ticket. Um,
right.
so that's influencing the results, of course, as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought in that notion of decision, because it really it ties together this whole story that um, this whole journey that you and I are going on together within the five elements. Because I teach within the five elements, which are fire, earth, metal, water, wood. And we go through these five elements every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year, right? Every lifetime. So, decision making is part of the wood element, and it has to do with the gallbladder. And it's the yang organ to the yin organ of the liver, which is a wood element and has to do with anger and repressed anger, right? And so when we start diving into the five elements, and again, these like blocks or stagnations and moving through all of them. So I take my clients through all the five elements and different variations of like where blocks are, because we have a lot of blocks around anger, rage, as well as control, decision making, indecision, fatigue. All that is part of the wood element, as well as growth and evolution, and how we were as a teenager. It's the element of spring, and then we could get into the other elements like fire and earth and metal and water. The element of water is fear. The emotion is fear, and uh, there's I can go on and on about the elements and how those all play into us constitutionally as a person, as a being, and collectively as well. And it's so important. It's so important to just like, yeah, it's about my actions and decisions, and that's a very wood um, place to be, right? And
I love
it's
it.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, so you could say, okay, so right now I'm in a really wood place in my business career, but my
Can you
business
share
life.
an example to make that a little bit actionable? Just like what kind of questions should you ask yourself, or
Yeah,
this is
sure. So the first thing I do is I share like a graph of, I mean, a picture, fire, earth, metal, water, wood. And so water feeds into wood. Like we'll just take your example. Like say you were like, I'm feeling like, and this is actually an example from a client of mine. She had a dream about loss of control, like being on a bus and not able, and she wasn't driving the bus, and she was like, what does this mean? And I said, archetypally, because dreams have a lot of archetypal images, you're feeling out of control, right? And she was like, oh God, I am exactly. And I always want to be in control. And so she was like, her dream told her the message, right? And dream interpretation, I do it very loosely. I ask a lot more questions than that. That was just a brief um, uh, to show you an example. But so we're talking about control, right? And decision making. And that could lead, and that's all the wood element. And so water feeds wood, wood feeds fire, and then wood tends to over control earth, and then metal tends to over control wood, right? So we could start with questions such as, you know, are you being fed? Let's just start with, if you're feeling this a block in wood, um, let's talk about fear, because fear is the element of water. And let's talk about where you feel movement in your life. Water is water also holds the emotions, all the emotions of all the the planet, of all your being. That's the nature of the ocean. And it's about this movement, because water, as we know, it flows into every uh, crevice and that it can, and spreads out. And it could also be well constricted, right? Like, okay, you can have a dam and dam up the water, or and guide it, or you can have this like big, like the Nile Delta, the water just going out all over the place and nourishing, right? So it can be a source of power in so many different ways. It's very powerful, water is. And so is fear. And it's wrapped up in our willpower, and the organs associated with it are the kidneys, which what rests right on top of the kidneys, but the adrenals, right? So we could be talking about burnout as well as fear. We could be talking about, adrenal fatigue. And so, right, I'll have like, we'll just kind of, maybe there'll be more dreams, or maybe just by me talking, and then I'll have a few questions. Things will come up, like, what is your number one deepest fear? That would be my first question. And it wouldn't be something um, that she had to answer right away. But one of my favorite practices is taking a fear inventory. So what you do is you write out three of your deepest, darkest fears, and then you actually say them to somebody. She could say them to me, but you have to say them out loud to somebody. It could be a trusted friend, and you and your friend do it together, like as a practice. Like you call each other, once a month, and like, this is my deepest, darkest fear. And just like, we all need to be seen, heard, and felt, right? Um, get it out there, right? So it's helping release that repressed fear. And oftentimes, when we do these practices, along with using the Teishin, with the water points on the face, with fear, with some breath work that I teach, it totally shifts. It totally lets go, and that fear is not so magnified. Because when you repress any emotion, when you repress an emotion, um, that's when those polarities get squeezed out into shadows. So, like when we repress money as a divine feminine, then it polarizes into greed and scarcity, right? And that's the two shadow sides. And everything can do that. And those are archetypes in terms of human beings. So yeah, that's a kind of a long-winded example, but we
No,
would go
that's been
through.
amazing. Really,
Yeah,
like, yeah, I would invite everybody to try to do that. I think
yeah,
thank you for sharing part of
definitely.
what you do, your practice.
A
That's
fear
been,
inventory.
yes.
Mhm.
So, yeah, sounds totally fascinating and so unique as a niche as well. How do you get there? How do you combine that, like all that business things, expertise? I know you also invested into coaching and in educating yourself, and then with the more intuitive side of, I'm guessing that, I mean, of course, you also invested in learning about self acupuncture and Chinese medicine, but when you see patients, I'm guessing there's a lot to do with intuition as well, like with a more feminine approach. So how do you combine that? How do you bring it together?
Yeah, I think it was many years of of learning myself, at the feet of my teachers, um, listening, and being of service to my teachers, and just taking it all in. Many, many, many years of studying, reading all the books. So absorbing, then realizing through my own studies and of this incredible medicine that, okay, I need to, walk my own walk. I am now ready to practice my medicine. So then you practice it, right? Then I'm ready to teach it, because once you practice it, then you can teach it, right? And then in that journey of being like, I have something to teach and I want to teach it, I am lost without business. I mean, how can you teach without understanding that reciprocity? Like, okay, so then I had to get really savvy with business, because you can't have a business without business. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's when I hired the coaches, and I really dove into marketing, all the things that I hadn't done forever. I'm an anthropologist, an artist, had never did an MBA program or anything like that, wasn't interested. I'm very intuitive. I channel, in my sessions, I channel. Yeah. So it was a steep learning curve. During the pandemic specifically, I dove into, sitting at the computer and being online and like absorbing so many of those online courses that we all did. And it was such torture, because who wants to sit in front of a computer? Like, oh my God. But I think that was one of those things that so many of us did. And right, we all have like our online courses that we like bought, and like they're over there collecting like digital dust. But I did a lot of live programs with coaches, and like really high quality ones. I did like 2 really high quality coaching programs that elevated me quickly. That's it. And that's what I'm doing for my patients now. I'm taking all that wisdom and education. So many, many years of practice and teaching and all this, and then receiving that rapid acceleration in terms of business, putting that all together. And just that stuff is just like the gift that I share with my clients. And it's that deeper, the blocks and the emotions and all of those things that we all really, that's the core struggle of being human and a woman. That's what I teach.
I love that. Also that you shared how really like it elevated you. Like, right. I don't know, I think it just comes together. So in my case, I created the offers, I put everything in place. But then when I invested in coaching on a more premium level, it just like took me to the next level.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you pass that on to them, because you take everything you've learned from a premium level and now pass on to them. And that's part of the feminine economy. This is part of us sharing in sustenance, being sustainable, being resilient, right? I share everything with my clients. Yeah.
That was a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much. So where can people go to learn more about you?
Great. Yeah. My website, it's my name, Lacey Dupre, LACEYDUPRE.com. That's it. Yeah. I'd love to speak to anybody out there about their money blocks, as well as their physical and emotional ones as well. And thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and love speaking to you. And I love your podcast. Your clients are so lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I'll add the link to the show notes, of course. Thank you, Lacey, for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Blissful Biz podcast. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes. This would mean the world to me. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to never miss a new episode. To learn more about how to work with me one-on-one, my courses and membership, or to get instant access to freebies, workshops, and more, go to susannereiker.com right now. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.